Verse 59, now the chief priests, the elders, and all the council sought, look what it says, false testimony against Jesus to put him to death. Not true testimony. They're not trying to get to the bottom of the facts here. They sought false testimony against Jesus to put him to death. This religious council, it was called the Sanhedrin. The Sanhedrin was made up of 70 members plus the high priest, so 71 members in all. And they were kind of like the Supreme Court over Judaism, the final judge over things within Judaism. And they've already made up their decision. They've already made up their mind about Jesus before hearing the case or hearing the facts or hearing the evidence. They want Jesus put to death. And now they're just searching for false witnesses who will justify the verdict they've already made. The 9th commandment of the 10 commandments is, you shall not bear false witness. And these are the religious leaders of the nation. They're actively conspiring to find false witnesses to condemn Jesus. Again, can you imagine leaders of a nation actively conspiring together, searching for false witnesses to condemn another person? Hard to believe that people can be that wicked, but it's true. I'm saying that sarcastically. We're told here they had a hard time finding false witnesses who were in agreement. They've got to get 2 witnesses that agree with each other. They can't find 2 that agree. But then it says, verse 59, they couldn't find any. Verse 60, even though many false witnesses came forward, they found none. But at last 2 false witnesses came forward. And here is the accusation they made against Jesus. This fellow said, I am able to destroy the temple of God and to build it in 3 days. Now, we talked about this Thursday night in our Thursday night Bible study. Mark tells us that they actually said, the full statement was, I will destroy this temple made with hands, and within 3 days I will build another made without hands. And as I said Thursday night, this was a messianic claim. Zechariah 6 says the Messiah will build a temple. And so the Jewish people expected the Messiah to build a temple and rule from that temple. And so this accusation that's made against Jesus here about this temple is that he's actually claiming to be the Messiah. So that's the accusation. This guy said something that indicates he thinks he's the Messiah. And so verse 62, and the high priest arose and said to him, do you answer nothing? What is it these men testify against you? But Jesus kept silent. All these false accusers are coming in, making these false accusations, one after another, and Jesus was silent. He didn't say anything. Isaiah 53 verse 7 says of Jesus, he was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. He was led as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before its shearers is silent, so he opened not his mouth. Now you think about if you're in that situation where people are coming in and making false accusations against you, you're going to defend yourself. You're going to say, that's not true. That's not what I said. That's not what I meant. That's not accurate. They're lying. They're making that up. But Jesus was silent. He just stood there and he didn't say anything. Listen, give me your attention. Jesus is dying in our place. He's dying for you. He's dying for me as our substitute to atone for our sins. He didn't die for his own sins. He was sinless. If he were dying for himself, he could give a defense for himself. But since he was dying in our place, he was silent because we're guilty. And there's no defense to offer for us. And so he just stood there. And all these false accusations were made. Finally, 2 people said, he made the statement about the temple, implying that he's the Messiah. So verse 63, the high priest answered and said to him, I put you under oath by the living God. Tell us if you are the Christ, the Messiah, the Son of God. The high priest puts Jesus under an oath, so now legally he's required to answer the question. He's got to give an answer. The question is, are you the Christ? Are you the Messiah? Are you the Son of God? Verse 64, Jesus said to him, it is as you said. I am. Nevertheless, I say to you, hereafter you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the power and coming on the clouds of heaven. Jesus answers the question plainly. I am the Messiah. I am the Christ. I am the Son of God. And then he alludes in the rest of his answer to a passage in Daniel chapter 7. Daniel 7, verse 13 and 14, which is about the Messiah. I'll read it to you. I was watching in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man, coming with the clouds of heaven. And he came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. And then to him was given dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. So here in his answer, Jesus says, yes, I am the Messiah, I am the Christ, I am the Son of God. And then he refers back to this passage in Daniel 7, which talks about the Messiah receiving dominion and glory and a kingdom, and all the peoples and nations and languages on the earth will serve him. And to this, the high priest tore his clothes, saying, he has spoken blasphemy. What further need do we have of witnesses? Look now, you have heard his blasphemy. What do you think? And they answered and said, he is deserving of death. Now remember, they could not give a verdict on the same day as the trial. They had to wait at least 24 hours to give the verdict. And then they had to wait 3 days before they issued the sentence on the guilty. They were also supposed to ask each member of the Sanhedrin one by one what their verdict is, what their vote is. They don't do any of that. The high priest declared Jesus is guilty of blasphemy, and the entire council answered he is deserving of death. They give the verdict at the same, and the sentence at the same time.